Welcome to the Cohn Zone. That's my dad, Lowell Cohn. I'm Grant Cohn. Title of the show is comparing Kyle Shanahan to Andy Reid. A lot of Niner fans believe that Kyle Shanahan is Andy Reid 2.0. So we'll talk about that. But first, there is some news. Matt Mayoko, friend of the Cohn Zone. You could even say he's in the Cohn Zone by proxy.
In fact, I'm having lunch with him on Friday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's definitely part of the Cohn Zone. So he reported that if the Niners cannot afford to re-sign Mike McGlinchey when free agency starts in a few weeks, and they might not be able to, it's looking, that the replacement is already on the roster most likely, and it would be Colton McKivitz, which got me thinking about the 49ers quest for six. It's something they talk about every year. It's their slogan. It's their marketing slogan, and it lets people know that they're serious about getting that Super Bowl. So I think nothing really says quest for six more than making Colton McKivitz a starter. What do you think, Dad?
Well, you know better than I do. Is he as good as Mike McGlinchey?
Yeah, maybe. I'd say so. I'm not a big Mike McGlinchey fan. I'm not going to go into that. So I think it's hard to be worse. So yeah, I think he's right there, and he's cheaper. But is he an upgrade? No.
Yeah.
No.
Is he good?
I wouldn't. No. And to me, I look at him as a backup who's now going to be starting on a team that's supposed to be winning the Super Bowl.
And he would be right tackle?
Mm-hmm. Fairly important position. He was a fifth-round pick. They cut him. He was on the practice squad. They elevated him. Good try-hard player who's a quality backup. And now it's looking like they're going to elevate him to the starting lineup, according to Matt Mayoko. I don't know. It doesn't feel like a quest for six move, Dad.
But, Iggy, why is it that consistently the 49ers under draft or get not bad free agents, they don't have good players on the right side of the offensive line. Why is that? I mean, that's where Brock Purdy got hurt from the right side. What's going on?
It's where Jimmy got hurt. It's where Jimmy got hurt too. It's very strange because when Jim Harbaugh was the coach here, he had Anthony Davis on the right, who was really good, first-round pick, and he had Alex Boone next to him, who was also really good. Ever since he left and Kyle Shanahan's gotten here, he's never taken the right side of the offensive line seriously. His right guard is usually even worse than the right tackle. I don't know what it is, but I think it's a major oversight. It seems like Kyle Shanahan thinks that all he needs is a great left tackle and he can sort of scheme around the rest, which is frankly how Mike Martz used to think 20 years ago. And maybe there's some similarities between them. Remember Mike Martz?
I knew Mike Martz because he was the offensive coordinator at the Niners for one season. So, I thought he was a reckless offensive coordinator, reckless and kind of a strange guy.
Well, Kyle's a little reckless, and I think his complete neglect of the right side of the offensive line fits into that.
Yeah, I have to say it's a blind spot. They used to have a blind spot at cornerback. I don't think they do anymore. You would know better than I would, but certainly the right side of the offensive line it's a dereliction of duty. And Iggy, I want to say something else. Do they really have these words, the quest for number 6?
Oh, they say it all the time. They write it all over Levi's Stadium. It is their slogan. And to me, sometimes it makes me giggle. It's like, oh, here we go. Quest for 6, Colton McKivitz starting at right tackle. Move over, Kansas City. Here come the 49ers. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's just like, really?
But Iggy, I'm interested in words.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, how about the quest for 1? This 6 is bullshit. That's from a whole other ownership. That's from a whole other era. Yeah. Eddie's teams got 5. Since these schlemiels came in, they got nothing, right?
Nothing. They've got 6 NFC Championship appearances and nothing to show for it in the last 11 years.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had a few pretty good tries, but they've got nothing. So, no, it's not a quest for 6. It's a quest for, can you do 1? And I've told you that a former coach on Bill Walsh's staff, it was after Harbaugh lost the Super Bowl, called me up and he said, it was so simple. So we never lost the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And now they've lost 2 of them, and now they can't even get back to it. So, I know this. It's tough. There's a lot of 49er fans listening, and I understand, but I would like to keep it real. Quest for 6 is a bullshit slogan. Quest for 1 would be good. Yeah.
Okay, it is a bullshit slogan. And you want to talk about words. You focused on the 6. Let's talk about the quest. The quest. The quest implies the Hobbit. You're going across country. You are really you're going through the desert. Moses went on a quest. Frodo went on a quest. The Niners are just hanging out with the same players on the team every year, waiting for 6 to come to them, waiting for 1 to come to them. That's not a quest. Right. You can't just keep elevating people on your team and going with the cheaper option and say that, hey, we're the best team in the league, even though we haven't won a Super Bowl yet. It's going to come to us. There is no quest here. This is a hang out in the porch and drink iced tea and wait for Lombardi to visit you.
Yeah, it's true. That's not exactly a quest.
No. So, I mean, look, they're very close. They can see the Lombardi. They got a really good team. They're like the 3rd or 4th best team in the league, but they feel like they've gone 95% of the way. And then why should they go 100% of the way? Why should they should come to them? You know what I mean? Maybe the team, you don't want to try too hard here. You want to be cool.
Yeah, and also you have to understand, it would come to them except they have bad luck.
Bad luck, unfortunate circumstances.
Yeah, get injuries.
That's true. Good point. All right, that's enough snark for now. Mason Wright says new ABBA song to sing this offseason is Take a Chance on Me for Trey Lance. Take a chance on me.
Oh, I remember
take a chance on me. Take a chance, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance, take a chance. That's another great ABBA song. I missed the best show of the week, says Manny Fresh. You missed it? You're here. What are you talking about?
I love every Tuesday.
We just started. I love every Tuesday hearing from you, Lowell. I'm Iggy's agent, a lifelong Niner and Iowa Hawkeye fan. Do you have any stories about Merton Hanks?
No, just the way he used to do that chicken walk in the when he would intercept. I can also tell you that Merton Hanks is quite a gentleman and a nice guy, but I don't really have any stories about him.
Okay. So let's talk about Andy Reid. During the season, Niner fans were really getting hot and bothered about Kyle Shanahan, talking about, is he a great coach? Is he the greatest coach of all time? If he wins the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, does that instantly qualify him as the greatest coach ever? Well, he didn't. Andy Reid won his 2nd Super Bowl and really embarrassed the team that Kyle Shanahan got embarrassed by. So, Andy Reid, is that what a great coach looks like, Dad?
First of all, it is. But I want to come back to Kyle a little, because we've had this conversation a lot. A lot of people, especially on my Twitter, want me to admit he's a great coach. You've been to this many championship games, blah, blah, blah. And he came in, it wasn't a good team. Kyle Shanahan is a good head coach. Good as B. He is a B head coach. There are A head coaches. We're talking grades, like I was graded in college. Andy Reid's an A. Now he's won his 2nd Super Bowl. In addition, he really outsmarted Philadelphia with that thing that you explained to me when he had the guy running across and then stopped and went the other way. And twice the Eagles couldn't figure it out, and it ended twice in touchdowns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Iggy.
It is,
brilliant.
absolutely. Yeah.
And
he did it twice.
I've never seen Kyle do anything like that. Those were game changers.
Yeah, absolutely. Those were game changers. He did it twice, and the other guy never adjust. That guy just got hired as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. Isn't that hilarious?
The guy who didn't adjust.
Today.
Really?
Today. Anyway, so forget that guy. Andy Reid, that was one thing he did. He found the loophole in his system. The other thing was, it was supposed to be the greatest pass rush ever, or one of the greatest pass rush ever. 0 sacks. Wow, it was really impressive.
Yeah, maybe that's even more important. The fact is, and Mahomes did not have full mobility. You could see. He didn't have,
right.
Sometimes he could run, but he got hurt again. He's obviously needs a lot of time off. He didn't get sacked. Do you know how many times Brock Purdy, if he was still on his feet, would have been sacked in that game? Because Kyle does not protect his quarterbacks. He doesn't factor in matchups. He has his scheme, and he goes to bed happy at night with his scheme. He's a system coach, but he doesn't factor in matchups, which is a major sin for a head coach and for a coordinator. Andy Reid is not like that. He didn't get his guys hurt. Iggy, it seemed to me he had a lot of quick release passes to keep pressure off, screens and bubble screens and stuff like that to keep Mahomes upright. In addition, he's the only coach in the league who does the West Coast offense. The guy at Santa Clara doesn't do it.
Yeah. Also, I feel like he's a better architect of a team. Like, he understands you need a great quarterback. Kyle thinks you can get by with Kirk Cousins or Brock Purdy. He doesn't. He thinks you don't need a great quarterback. He also understands, Andy Reid, that you don't need to spend a ton of money on wide receivers and running backs. Like, he traded Tyreek Hill. He's not spending any money on running backs. Those are replaceable positions. What he spends on offense, quarterback, his tight end, Travis Kelce, and his offensive line. He was an offensive lineman. He understands the importance of the quarterback and protecting the quarterback. Kyle doesn't get that. Kyle spends his money on running backs and wide receivers. He's got $12 million a year on Christian McCaffrey, and he's spending about $24 million a year on Deebo Samuel, who's a lot like Christian McCaffrey. I mean, how many throws to the flat can you do? And how is that going to beat Andy Reid?
So I see what you're saying. Even at the level of team construction, he's not at the level of Andy Reid.
No, absolutely not. I mean, he spends all of his he's constantly drafting defensive linemen, which is, are you really going to beat the Chiefs with a D-line? Like, the best D-line in the league just got completely neutralized. Your D-line got neutralized by Andy Reid week 7 this year, week 8, whatever it was, and they scored 44 on you. Kyle keeps trying to build through his defense. Kyle is like stuck in 1994, where you have a defense and a run game, and you're really trying. Like, actually, all the rules favor throwing. And your quarterback, all you got to do is protect him. He's the one quarterback who can't. He's the one coach who can't protect a quarterback. Here's a stat with Andy Reid. Since 2013, his starting quarterbacks have missed 4 games. 4.
Really?
4. Kyle, I mean, it's like every 8 games, this guy gets really hurt.
Yeah.
Is that a fluke?
I don't think so. You know what I think? I think Kyle Shanahan should go to Andy Reid finishing school.
Yeah.
He should pay Andy Reid to tutor him on how to be a head coach. I do.
Yeah, I think so.
Iggy, do you think Andy Reid's the best coach in the league?
I think so. I think he is.
Think so.
I'd have to say so.
Yeah.
I would have to say so. It seems like he's got it. And I don't know what the difference is, if he's just more mature than Kyle Shanahan, if he takes his ego out of it more than Kyle Shanahan, but he still finds ways to dazzle people with his play designs. I mean, he still gets a lot of credit, even though he has Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I just think the fundamental difference between him is that Kyle had a chance to get Mahomes and didn't want him. He had the right of first refusal and said, no, thanks. And then Andy Reid traded up.
So you're saying that Kyle refused?
Didn't want him. It's like, no, thanks. Not for my system. Not a good fit for me. And because he was looking for Kirk Cousins down the line.
And we can't emphasize this enough. It's a fool's game. Not a good fit for me, as opposed to, this is a once-in-an-era quarterback. This is a Hall of Fame quarterback, Mahomes. I will adjust my system to him.
Yes.
It's what Bill Walsh would have done. He adjusted to Joe. I will adjust my system to him. No, for him, the system comes first. And because of that, he's always going to fall short. And Iggy, I'm going to tell you, I don't believe this guy's ever going to win a Super Bowl with the Niners.
I don't think he will ever, because what you have to understand is it's all about the quarterback position. And Kyle thinks it's all about him.
Right.
I think what he wants to do, he wants to win a Super Bowl with the 7th round pick so he could show that look what I did. It's a great story, as opposed to having the best quarterback in the league who might take the credit. I don't know. I think because maybe that's what happened to his dad. John Elway gets all the credit or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And also, it does disturb me that Kyle cannot ever take responsibility for a failure. That's very bad. But you know what? Let's not dump on Kyle, because it's so attractive. Let's try to resist that today. What we wanted to do was say how great Andy Reid is.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Barclay says, absolutely love you two, like a family I've never met. Trey starts. Niners can do so much better with someone else besides Kyle. Dak the player equals Kyle the coach. He just doesn't prepare well.
I clearly think they had hoped that Trey Lance would be like Jalen Hurts, that he would be that kind of quarterback. And listen, he may be. The point is they've mismanaged him so badly. As of today, we still don't know how good he is. If he's good.
Yeah.
It's not Trey Lance's fault. He didn't mismanage himself.
No, absolutely not. Grant, I love the mic, but you sound a little muffled. Do I sound muffled, Dad?
Not to me.
It's my first time using it. I can't hear it myself. I'll fine tune it. Sorry about this. My first time. By the second time, it'll be better. Papa Cohn, where does Iggy Iglet stem from? My older brother gave me the name. He's 12 years older than me. He gave me the name when I was really little. That's where it stems from. The window is closed when Trent retires.
Hold on. A couple of times you're fading out. You're not muffled, but a couple of times you go sort of audio blank. But I'm here. Talk again.
Testing. Talk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It does?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll figure it out. 808-9 says the window is closed when Trent retires. If he retires next year, I don't care who you have. Mahomes, Moore, and McKivitz would get him killed. Well, yeah, maybe. Although when you spend $28 million a year on one offensive lineman, it's hard to have other good offensive linemen. So that's where the Niners are at right now. Let's talk about the coach of the year. Okay. The coach of the year. Go ahead, Dad.
Okay. Again, I do Twitter. Maybe I shouldn't, because Twitter, I'm not saying all people on Twitter, very nice people on Twitter, but it seems like every nutcase in America is on my Twitter. It's deplorable. And so a lot of guys wanted me to, when I would ever criticize Kyle Shanahan, it's like he was Moses or Jesus Christ. You couldn't, or the Virgin Mary. You couldn't criticize him. Whenever I'd criticize him, they say, but he's in the running for coach of the year. He may be coach of the year. I guess he was in the running. He came in second.
He was. He almost won it. Yeah.
If he won it, it would have been a disgrace.
Yeah.
It would. Now, Daboll in the New York Giants won it.
He did.
Okay. I understand it, because Daboll came in. It's a horrible organization. He came in and really brought it to life and did a lot with much less than Kyle has. So I understand that. So that puts Kyle number 2. I don't put him number 2. Coach of the year? Let's go over a couple. Sirianni. Look what he did in Philly. In his second year, he got him to the Super Bowl. And Iggy, what did he lose, by 3 points?
3.
Yeah. And I would tell you something else. If they were to play again in 2 or 3 weeks, which they won't, of course, Philly might win that game. Those are two evenly matched teams.
Yeah, the margin between them was just like this.
Yeah, and it was the one mistake. It was the one mistake.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, Sirianni deserves it. I mean, not even close over Kyle. He achieved more, and he did it quicker. Kyle got into the Super Bowl his 3rd year. This guy was, and also, he is so aggressive going for it on 4th down often. He's really, really brought something good to the game.
I agree.
He's brought something exciting and good to the game. So
he approaches 3rd down like his 2nd down. I love that.
Yes. So, and Iggy, I would also say the coaches in Buffalo and Cincinnati are certainly in the running and maybe more deserving than Kyle. So it's all the Schlemiels who write to me on Twitter. They're just 49er fans. They don't actually think about things. And if you don't say that the 49ers are great at everything, you're quote-unquote a hater. But those coaches in Buffalo and in Cincinnati did a very nice job, Iggy.
They did an excellent job. I think it's just kind of amazing that people think Kyle Shanahan's the coach of the year. Like, he faced Andy Reid. Andy Reid schooled Kyle Shanahan and DeMeco Ryans. I mean, I think they never punted. There was an interception on the first drive, and I don't think they ever punted Kansas City. So, and Andy Reid wasn't even in the running for coach of the year because his team is so, he'll never actually win that award when actually he's the best coach in the league every year. It's kind of interesting.
That's, because he has Mahomes and they feel it's
right. Or it's like too obvious. It's too so you have to have like a great story to win with Kyle, it was that he won so much with his third string quarterback. But I mean, I don't know. That's not.
Yeah. Two things against Kyle for winning for more than two. First of all, he had his third string quarterback because he got the other two murdered. He started off the season losing to really some chump teams. That's Coach of the Year. Those games count as well. That's why they ended up playing in Philadelphia. Though it's not like they say, oh, the first month, they count less in the standings. No, they count in the standings. And if you can remember 3 or 4 months back, if you have that kind of memory, you have to factor that in.
Yeah. So maybe next year for Kyle, but no, not this year. He didn't deserve it. Gold-blooded says Andy Reid gets the most out of his quarterbacks. McNabb, Garcia, Alex Smith, Vic, Mahomes. Kyle gets his quarterbacks ruined. RG3, Hoyer, Beathard, Mullins, Jimmy, Trey, Brock. Yeah, and then Kyle complains about not having a quarterback constantly. RG3 was pretty special until he got injured.
Boy, he must be so bitter. I don't know him.
RG3? I'd love to know privately what he feels.
Yeah.
What do you think his career would have been like had he played for Andy Reid?
Superstar.
Darian Diaz says football is about matchups. Shanahan drafts players for his system instead of physical capabilities. There needs to be someone holding him accountable. Well, that's what we do every week.
Oh,
haven't you?
That's what we do.
Watched?
And we don't even get paid for it.
When Trent retires, won't be paying $22 million to tip plays. Oh my goodness, that is true. You know that thing about Trent Williams? Did I ever explain that to you?
Do it again. I love it.
He basically tells the defense if it's a run or a pass. If it's a run, he's in a 3-point stance. If it's a pass, he's in a 2-point stance, like preparing to kick slide and pass protect. And his attitude is, well, they don't know what run play's coming. They don't know what pass play's coming. Thanks, Trent. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Way to be a team player there. Jonathan Gannon says, new hiring a treat in the NFC West. Yes, he's terrible. What are the Cardinals thinking? What are they doing? Being the Cardinals. Where's the petition to have Jed step down? Should have been active years ago. Nothing will change until he leaves. A petition will do it, Dad. He's going to step down from a multi-billion-dollar company because there was a petition of people that were upset. I'm with you, Mr. Amazing.
And the only one who would make him step down is Mommy. Mommy,
his mother.
The team. Mommy.
It's true. Okay. So I think we learned a universal truth about the NFL watching this Super Bowl, and it's that you need a super quarterback to be in there and to have a chance to win it. Both teams seem to have super quarterbacks. One team had a super duper quarterback, and the Niners may or may not have one. Really quick, after the game, Andy Reid was being interviewed by that panel of ESPN guys, and Steve Young was there. And I think Steve asked him, well, what did you learn? And what does it take? And Andy Reid essentially said, we have good coaches on the staff, and we do matter, but you need one of you, Steve. You need one of you. And I'm not too, proud to understand that it's about that we're incredibly fortunate to have Patrick Mahomes. And have you ever heard Kyle Shanahan talk that way? Do you think he even feels that way?
No.
I think his life mission is to prove that that's wrong and that Kyle is all that you need.
What Andy, again, I don't know Andy Reid. Kyle is a bit of a sour pickle, as I've said. He's a bit of a sour pickle. He never seems enthusiastic. It's like his personality was stolen at birth. And they're still searching for who took it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when Andy says we need one of you to Steve, what an honor, what a nice thing to say. And Steve deserves it. What a player, what a leader. So here's what I want to say about the Niners. I thought the Brock Purdy story was great. It was a fairy tale. I would love to have covered it, and I would love to have met him and see what he's like. But I do not believe he will ever enter that echelon of quarterbacks like Mahomes. Jalen Hurts, he's pretty good, Iggy. He had a good passer rating. He ran for 3 touchdowns.
It's really good.
He's really good. And what I think is, I'm going to try to do this as well as I can. Purdy is a kind of a quarterback, if you give him the greatest weapons in the world, he could take advantage of them and do beautifully with them. But he's not the kind of quarterback who could take the team on his back like Mahomes or Steve Young, because sometimes you do, who could take the team on his back and win the freaking game. Joe could do that.
Because you're the only position on the team that can do that. Quarterback.
I don't think he can. What do you think, Aiden?
No, I don't think he can. So it was a great story. If he hadn't come along, this season would have been over in October, and it would have been boring. But what the Niners don't need to do is act like this is the franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, because that's the same mistake they made with Jimmy Garoppolo. They fell in love with a little run and extrapolated it to that he's great. I don't know about that. I mean, he didn't prove it in the NFC Championship game, frankly. So we'll have to see. I think the Niners owe it to themselves to still see what they have in Trey Lance before they move on and look for the next Patrick Mahomes.
I agree with you. And, I saw an interview with Jeff Garcia a few days ago. And, Jeff is very forthright. And they asked him who should be the starting quarterback. And he said something very interesting. He said, Brock Purdy needs to be the best quarterback because he understands the system better than Trey Lance. Now, that's a double-edged sword, meaning if you're the kind of coach who wants a system quarterback, you go with this guy. But it also means if you were a more enlightened coach, I believe it means, and more open-minded, you might look at the other guy.
Yeah. It's interesting. You talk about a super quarterback. A super quarterback is someone who is athletically gifted, the prototype, big, mobile, strong arm, can make every throw, a really good Steve Young, Patrick Mahomes. When Kyle Shanahan in the past has been asked about what does he look, what's the most important trait a quarterback has to have, he always says a couple things: toughness and processing ability, like the ability to quickly decipher a defense. He doesn't think he needs an athlete at the quarterback position. He thinks all he needs is a computer. Someone who can read the defense, stand there, throw the ball to the right place, and take the hit. That's all you got to do. He really hasn't had very much respect for the position. He spends, again, on wide receivers, on the skill position guy. He was a wide receiver. Debo's making money. Christian's making money. Kittle's making money. Ayuk. But the quarterback is just, he's a 6-foot guy. It could be Kyle. It could be Kyle. Kyle is the star.
And when he says when we say he needs a computer, it's because he's a computer.
He's a computer.
He's a computer.
He's
a computer. Hal in Space Odyssey had as much personality as Kyle. We ought to call him Hal.
There's a movie you never saw, but everyone here in the chat, my age, has seen it. It's called Grandma's Boy. It was produced by Adam Sandler, but he's not in it. It's about a 35-year-old who lives with his grandparents and is a video game designer. And so he's a little bit of a loser. At this place is a boy genius who is like the star at the company. And he's so out there that he sometimes talks like a robot and thinks that he's half robot. And I've always felt that Kyle Shanahan is a lot like that guy, JP from the Grandmas. But he's a genius, and everyone calls him a genius, and he's so detached from normal people that he actually has the personality of a robot. That's how I feel. JP from Grandma's Boy. Sorry.
Okay, I love it. Thank you.
People have been calling Kyle Shanahan a genius since he was like 28 years old. I don't think that's healthy, man. He never won a Super Bowl. He's not a champion. How is he really a genius, or is he just a guy who grew up around football and has a very good understanding of X's and O's? And now ego.
He's a guy who people in the media nationally who don't really know him or know football call a genius. Just like people call Don Nelson a genius. When did he ever win? I mean, Don Nelson was a very interesting man to cover in good ways and bad ways. He was clever. He never got a center. He never played defense, right? But he was a genius. So this kid's a genius kid. I don't know, he's a kid. How old is he?
He's like 43, 44.
That's not a kid anymore.
It's not a kid anymore.
No.
He's been in the league like 15 years. But he's just had some unfortunate circumstances, Dad.
Yeah, he's dogged by injuries. They're dogging him.
He's snake bit. 2.0 says...
Hold on. We're talking about geniuses.
Geniuses.
In football. Hold on. Bill Walsh was a genius.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Gibbs was a genius.
Mm-hmm.
I think Andy Reid's a genius.
I would say so. He's looking like it. Yeah, I think
so.
I
would say so. Kyle is not in that class.
No. If he were, he would win a Super Bowl with this roster. He's had an elite roster for like four. Everyone says it was a bad team when he got here. And then he built it up with John Lynch. And then since they drafted Nick Bosa, they've had an elite team, and he's won 0 Super Bowls. So if he were a genius and a great coach, he would have sealed the deal already. Maybe he'll become a genius and a great coach in the future.
Okay. All right.
2.0 says, don't get the hate on Jed right now. Seems to give Kyle and Lynch the green light on whatever they want to do. McCaffrey, etc. pays for team East Coast trips, nice hotels, think he deserves more love.
I don't feel like
pays for trips.
I need to love Jed York. I don't think he loves me. So I'm going to withhold my love.
I think it's a bottom line industry, and until he gets that quest for one, I don't think we really need to write him a love letter.
Yeah.
808 Niners says Andy Reid wins with every quarterback he gets. He makes the offense easy for them. He uses motion to show if it's man or zone, stacks his wide receivers so they can get free releases. Kyle Shanahan, it seems his system is the only way.
That's right. He's not flexible at all. He's a system coach. Gruden is a system coach. These guys, I have tremendous problems with. The issue is not what is your goddamn system. Who do you have? How are you going to make a place for who you have?
And again, Kyle Shanahan, all of his quarterbacks get hurt, and every single time he says, that's bad. It's not my fault. It's bad luck, or it's the quarterback's fault. It's a tough position to play. They need to do it better. All I know is that 1 week, Kyle Shanahan faces the Eagles, and both of his quarterbacks get knocked out of the game. 2 weeks later, Andy Reid faces the same team, and that team gets 0 sacks. Now, Patrick Mahomes gets some credit for that, but so does Andy Reid. And the fact that his starting quarterbacks have only missed 4 games in the last 10 seasons, that's not a fluke either. So Kyle has to own this.
Yeah. He needs
Shreddy
to go
Murphy's,
to Andy Reid camp.
Yeah, give him a call. See if Andy Reid camp. Shreddy Murphy says Mahomes too experienced now. Our shot was 2019 up 10 the fourth quarter. Next chance was develop a project. Philly did it right. We didn't. We can get to the Super Bowl, but can't face Kansas City. Yeah, I don't see how you can beat the Niners. If a team is built to, if there's a team that can take down Kansas City, it's not the Niners right now. John Wayne, thank you. Chris Groves, Bill Walsh is not a genius. A genius is someone like Norman Einstein. Joe Theismann.
Hey, you know what? I'm the one who broke that story. I broke that story about Norman Einstein. Yeah.
That's right. That was Albert Einstein's brother, if you didn't know, Norman.
His smarter brother.
Yeah. All right. So this is a downtime in the offseason. The Super Bowl's over, and there's no Niner news other than the great news that Colton McKivitz is getting elevated to the starting lineup, most likely. But things happen in the course of an offseason. A lot of things happen. So, Dad, I think it would be fun to go through the calendar and just remind 49er fans what they have to look forward to.
Okay. I'd like to do a little preface to this.
Please.
Iggy. In a way, baseball is a more satisfying game than football because there's a game every day. And in football, there's a game once a week. So you get more games, a lot more games in baseball. On the other hand, in football, every week there's a dramatic look toward the game and suspense as Thursday comes around and Friday, and you build up to the game, and it's quite an emotional feeling, and then there's a catharsis afterward. I mean, it's really wonderful. So I have to admit,
and it helps you get over the past. There's a win, there's a loss. It's emotional. You got to move on and look forward. And right now, the Niners are sort of stuck on how they lost this. It's time to look forward.
Yeah, but I want to say is, I do miss the season. Yeah. I do miss looking forward to the games, and I do miss when Iggy does his grades and all of that stuff right after the game. And I'm always telling him when he's on the road, be sure and be safe, get an Uber, don't get hurt, because I'm a dad. But the football season is over, but football is 365 days a year. So I think it's important for us to say what's coming up, what important events and milestones that we can look forward to talking about. Iggy, why don't you do it? You're better than I am at this.
I will. I get a question a lot from people that either don't know my job or that well. Say, so what are you going to do now that the season's over? Keep writing about the Niners every single day. Keep talking about the Niners every single day. All right. So February 21st is the window opens for teams to use the franchise tag. So if there's anyone the Niners are going to franchise tag, they can do that starting in a week from today. I don't know that they would tag anyone, but you don't know. Day after that, though, February 22nd is the most important day of the offseason. It's when Brock Purdy's surgery on his elbow happens. And again, the surgeon hasn't decided what he's going to do. They're saying they want to do the repair, which is a 6-month recovery, but they'll make that determination when they make the incision. So we'll find out in 8 days. Then on February 28th to March 6th is the NFL Scouting Combine. It's a big one. I mean, the Niners don't have a top 100 pick this year, but they could always trade up, and they do have a lot of picks later, and they're great at picking later in the draft. So that's always fun. March 7th is the deadline to franchise tag a player. It's also when the pro days begin around college campuses. And then the best part is March 13th, when the legal tampering period begins for free agency. I love that. Remember how free agency starts on the 15th, and there'd always be like, it starts at 4 p.m. Eastern, and all of a sudden all these deals would be done immediately. It's like, wait a second. How did the team and the agent work all this paperwork out in 4 seconds? Oh, because they've been talking for 2 days. Because they've been talking for 2 days, which is tampering and against the rules. So they, instead of making free agency start 2 days earlier, there's a legal tampering period where it's like you can have these conversations off the record and you can sort of agree to stuff. So news will start breaking on March 13th of this player has agreed to a deal with this team. It won't be official until the 15th, but news will start breaking on the 13th about big name signings. And last year, I believe the Niners signed, they made a big signing in Travarius Ward. I don't remember if it was during the legal tampering period, but it was right off the bat, free agency. So the Niners, this could be, if they make a big splash, it'll be 13th to the 15th.
Offensive linemen,
you know they won't be. But if they could get a center, that would be great. Then March 26th to the 29th is the NFL league meetings. That's like the owners. I think Kyle Shanahan usually talks. I might go to that. I've never gone before, but you can get sort of like not off the record, but a informal group interview with the coach and the GM.
I'm sure that if you go to that, Kyle would be very happy to see you there. And
he likes me.
He'll invite you out for a beer.
Yeah, we'll chop it up. Shoot the breeze. Talk about life. April 17th, OTAs begin, but it's like phase 1 and 2 where the players just show up and like lift weights and run around and we're not invited, but technically they report on April 17th. Then on April 27th is the draft. That's the 27th, 28th, 29th. Then on May 1st is the deadline for the 5th-year option. So that's when the Niners are going to say whether they pick up the 5th-year option for Javon Kinlaw and Brandon Ayuk. Those two players. That's May 1st. May 5th to the 8th is the rookie minicamp. So the Niners draft players. A week later, they're in a camp practicing for 3 days, which is fun. They do another one.
You go
yes,
to that?
I do. They do another one on May 12th to the 15th. And then shortly after that is OTAs. Shortly after that is minicamp. Those dates aren't official yet. Minicamp's over around June 18th. Then there's about 5-6 weeks off, where I will go maybe leave the country, do something fun, do some travel vlogs, and then end of July, training camp. Boom. That's it.
End of July.
End of July. Usually the players report like July 25th. The first practice will be 27th. The first day in pads will be August 1st or the 30th, something like that.
Iggy, if you were the general manager and you had whatever your pick is whenever it comes, what would be the first kind of player you'd take?
An offensive lineman.
Yeah, me too.
I would look for a center or a right tackle. It seems to me that it doesn't really matter what position, honestly. That you should have at least 3 really good offensive linemen. Then I just have 1. So whatever freaking position you can find a really good offensive lineman, go get that guy. You don't have a second one. The Chiefs have a really good left tackle, at least this year. They had a really good left tackle, a really good left guard, and one of the best centers in the game. That's a great place to start. Okay. The Eagles had the best center in the league, the best right tackle in the league, and I mean, all 5 of the Eagles' offensive linemen are better than the Niners' second best offensive lineman. All 5 of them are better than the Niners' second best offensive lineman. So anyone, I think the Niners got to change the offensive line from a weakness that Kyle Shanahan schemes around to a strength, to a weapon. It's a weapon for Kansas City. It's a weapon for Philly. It's a weakness for the 49ers. But they won't.
No.
They're not going to change.
What Bill Walsh used to tell all the time, his offensive linemen, and this is along with being a weapon, think of yourself as a boxer and get in the first punch. I heard him say 1,000 times.
I think Kyle Shanahan needs to update his roster building philosophy. I think he's a little too focused on defense. I think he feels that if he pours most of his high draft picks in defense, that he's such a brilliant guy, that his scheme and a few weapons will take care of everything on offense. But the league wants scoring. The league doesn't really let you play defense in the Super Bowl. You need to be instead of spending first and second round picks on defensive linemen every year, spend them on offensive linemen. Last year, they had a second round pick. They spent it on Drake Jackson, a pass rusher who didn't even suit up down the stretch for them. A few picks later, Philly picked an offensive lineman who's going to be their starting center next year. Instead of taking pass rushers who play 30% of the snaps, take a freaking offensive lineman who plays 100% of the snaps and he'll be your 10 years. I would start there.
Again,
I would also trade some players. Go ahead.
No, and again, that's Sirianni being more prudent than Kyle.
Yes.
I think Sirianni, Iggy, he did a beautiful job there.
He did a great job. I mean, his offense was phenomenal in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Really, the only mistake he made was toward the end of the game. Like the one time he didn't go for it on fourth, I think it was 4th and 2, he punted and Kansas City had a long punt return. That would be the one time where I'd say, hey, stick to your guns, be yourself.
Yeah.
But that was it. He still scored 35.
Yeah. And Iggy, you need to score over 30 to beat Kansas City. And I'm not sure that the Niners can consistently do that with Brock Purdy if the poor guy can even play. We're going to find out a lot about that. It's still a big question mark over his head.
Well, if the 49ers don't really invest in their offensive line, they're always going to be at a big disadvantage against teams. I mean, Kansas City has 2 great defensive linemen, Chris Jones and Frank Clark. Chris Jones wrecked the Niners in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl. He wrecked them. All you got, if you have a good D end and a good D tackle against the Niners, at the end of the game, you just put them on the right side of the Niners offensive line. Make them go up against the right tackle and the right guard every snap. And that's what Kansas City can do. I mean, Philly goes 8 deep on the D line. Unless you can match up with that, you have no chance. So you got to get better there. Otherwise, quarterback's going to keep getting hurt.
But you know what? Offensive line is the least sexy.
Thank you.
Except for kicker, it's the least sexy part of a team, and you've got to really have conviction to understand how important it is.
And Christian McCaffrey's a great player, but when they traded for him, we're like, wow, is that what they need? Another running back, not an offensive lineman, another running back. Like, you already have Deebo Samuel. How many passes to the flat can you throw? Like, that's not how you beat the Chiefs. If you're going to beat the Chiefs, you have to have an offense that can also go down the field like them and score quickly. The Niners are they throw this way, not this way. They throw this way. I don't know. So that's what I would do. Beast Mode says, we give Kyle 1 more year, and if he can't get it done, we should hire Eric Bieniemy with the Chiefs.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
I want to be clear on this. I'm the only one, but I was in favor of firing Kyle after this season. I think what he did.
I was in favor of it.
You were in favor of trading him.
Why wouldn't you trade him if you could get something for him?
Yeah, I would get rid of him. I would have gotten rid of him. And then his performance at that press conference, he was so smug. He was so smug.
Yeah.
Gave me the creeperama.
Completely off topic. Happy Valentine's Day to my fiance. I love you, Hannah. Thank you guys for all you do, Grant and Lowell. Happy Valentine's Day, Hannah.
Hannah, we're thinking of you.
Todd says Don Shula is a genius from the Colts and Dolphins. So is George Hallis, the guy that coached the Bears. I enjoyed the conversation. Have a great day. Thank you, Todd. Geniuses.
Thank you.
Is Gimple really a fool? No, that's the whole thing.
Oh, what a story. What a story. I don't think he's a fool. Here's what happened. It was Iggy's birthday, and I just got him some really nice wine for Christmas. But then his birthday is January 13th. I don't want to get him more wine. And so I got I'm a reader, and I'd like Iggy to read. So I got him a collection of short stories by Isaac Bashevis Singer. And the lead story is Gimple the Fool. And Iggy, could we say that's one of the greatest short stories ever written?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Was it 10 pages? 15?
Yeah.
2.0 says a super quarterback is very athletically gifted. Really? The GOATs weren't. Mahomes isn't a crazy athlete by NFL standards. I think intangibles are what separate the great quarterbacks, not athleticism. Mahomes is 6'4". He's really mobile. He's got one of the best arms I've ever seen. So, I don't know. He was the 10th pick in the draft. He wasn't floating around in round 7. I don't know. That's the way I look at him. Tell Kyle Shanahan how to improve. He won't listen. Others may. He listens to me. That's the thing that's what's nice about my relationship with Kyle Shanahan is that he listens to me. Bruh, go back to the old mic. You sound super muffled. Sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. You spend $1,000 on a mic and it gets worse. Pat Mahomes says no sacks. Pat Mahomes, no sacks. Let's not forget about the brilliant genius who thought it was a good idea to experiment the new turf in the slip and slide bowl. Yeah, did you see? Everyone was slipping around that Super Bowl. It was another good look for the NFL. They can't get officiating or turf correct in the NFL. What is that? Would you trade Bosa for 2 B-plus offensive line players on rookie contracts?
I don't want to trade Bosa.
I don't think you can trade Bosa because if you don't have Bosa, you have no one. You have no pass rushers. 0.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. Although that being said, I don't know that Bill Belichick traded Richard Seymour and Chandler Jones. So it might be something he would do. I got to think about it. But yeah, who would you have left? Who would you have left?
Why did he trade Richard Seymour?
I don't know. Is Richard Seymour a Hall of Famer? He's getting old. I don't know.
All I know is I spoke to a 49ers scout about Richard Seymour when he was playing over at the Raiders. Mm-hmm. And how do I put this? The scout implied to me that Seymour was not, at that time of his career, one of the harder workers.
See, I think that's the thing. I think Belichick understands, a lot of these guys work to get paid, but once they get paid, are they still going to put in the effort? Because it's not a glamorous game. And he didn't want to pay. He didn't want to give $20+ million to people he had questions about. So Chandler Jones, great player, goodbye.
And again, I don't know that Seymour was not a hard worker. This is what a scout told me.
I thought Kyle should have been fired after the trade and pick. Think it still ends up being the reason unless Purdy can save him. Think it's the reason he's trying to rush him back so fast.
They do seem to be trying to rush him back, don't they?
They do seem to be trying to rush him back. We'll see what the surgeon ultimately decides. All right, so you and I were getting lunch yesterday, prepping for the show, and we just went off on a tangent about how it's interesting how successful our show is and how many views we get and how there is no level of success and popularity we could achieve that would get us picked up by a television channel locally, nationally, ever. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, let's take me out of it because I'm retired, and
that's true.
Let's
talk about me.
Yeah, let's talk about you. I want you to know that for a period of 10 years, Iggy couldn't get to first base. He was rejected at KMBR, 95.7 the game. He worked at the Press Democrat, but it was a crap deal. It was a crap deal. They never gave him a full-time position. They didn't pay. Whenever he traveled, I paid for it. The Chronicle wasn't interested. The San Jose Mercury. And the editor there, Buddy Geraci's my friend, and he never gave Iggy a look. I
worked for Bleacher Report for a year, and then I worked for Bleacher Report for a year, and then the second year they were like, "We're good. We don't need you anymore." They just got rid of me.
And also, Bay Area Sports, Comcast, whatever it was then.
I worked for them for a year. Yeah,
and then they weren't interested.
Right.
There was that one lady who was telling me, I forgot her name. Don't say the name, but I got to tell you.
Oh yeah.
She goes. I want to tell you what good writing is. Now look. I was been a writer my whole life and taught writing in universities. And she says, this I want to tell you is the stupidest remark that anyone ever said about writing. You got to have good adjectives. She said that, right? Okay. Yeah. Any writer knows American prose is noun verb.
Yeah.
You almost never use an adverb, and you only use an adjective if it's going to kick ass, and you use it sparingly. So the minute Iggy heard her say that, he grew up in my house with me, and my wife was a writer. He knew I'm talking to a moron.
Yeah. So that was cool. And people like that. Also, I said that I was your son, and she said, "Oh, Lowell, you always know what he's going to say." I was like, "What?" That's not a compliment. She's like, "I mean, except for when you don't." I was like, "Okay, well, this isn't going well." Not a fan.
You know what happened one time after you told me she said that?
What?
I didn't really know her, so I was in the parking lot at, what is it, Bay Area, NBC Bay Area Sports.
Yeah.
She's walking to her car, and I'm walking into the studio from my car, and she gives me this big phony smile. She says, "Hi, Lowell." And I said, "Who are you?"
Never heard of you. But you know me, though, right? But you don't like me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what we're trying to say is not the most popular guy. So I guess all these people feel I have nothing to add to their organization. Like I can't help them in any way. But Sports Illustrated, God love them, they work with me, and we have a great business relationship. And now I've built this platform on my own on YouTube with 62,000 subscribers. And I mean, I get 3 to 4 million views a month. There is no one really in the Bay Area with traction like this. But I mean, I'm untouchable. And I think it's because a lot of these places are sort of in bed with the local teams, and you can only be honest up to a point. You have to have a certain filter to have a full-time job as a media guy in this. You can only say so much. And that leads to, there's a market for someone to just be honest, but you can't actually get a full-time job. You have to create your own platform, which is what we've done. And it's what people appreciate about the show.
If, for example, you had the same approach, what I would say is not anti-Niner, but also not pro-Niner, just telling the truth. You couldn't do it at KMBR because they're a rights holder. They have the play-by-play. So they wouldn't touch you. And most of the 95.7 is not a place that I tremendously respect. And they're not a rights holder, but they seem to be very pro-49er unless I'm missing something. It seems like most places, I'm going to limit it to the Niners, although it would apply to the Giants and to the Warriors as well. Most of the places don't want too much tumult. They want to get along. They're afraid of losing access. They're afraid of losing hits on Twitter or on their website, when in fact, if they were more dramatic, even if people didn't like it, they'd get more hits. When I was at the Chronicle and the Press Democrat, the reason they had me was because I was controversial. That word was, and the idea, you want a sports columnist, me, or a sports analyst like Iggy, to be controversial in the sense of not being afraid to tell the truth.
Right.
I feel that the media in general, and a lot of them are my friends, are too comfortable with teams and too frightened to give, I would even say, more objective reporting.
Yeah, I think they're afraid of what the response is going to be on social media, because if you're not 100% positive on social media about the team, you just get attacked constantly, which is, I get attacked. I don't care though, because what I think is Twitter's horse shit. I don't care what people say to me on Twitter. It's just a way for people to get to know who I am. And what people always say is, I didn't like you at first. This Grant Cohn, I didn't like him at first, but then I watched some of his videos and I started to really like it. Happens all the time. So keep saying whatever you want to say about me. What happens is they hate me on Twitter. They find me on YouTube. They subscribe. And then they watch every day. So I just don't think these news organizations have kind of figured out that if you don't really care about what people say on Twitter, you could actually get a lot more views and money. But I don't think these companies are doing that well, Dad. It doesn't seem like any of them have any show that's a hit right now in the Bay Area. Is there? I mean, I could think of. I can
tell you,
I'm just saying.
The Press Democrat just moved out of its beautiful building in Santa Rosa. We had a beautiful building to a little storefront a few blocks away. And
are you serious?
Man, Iggy. Remember what a pretty building that was?
Yeah, I do.
They're out.
And what's funny is in this market, we get framed as like, they're just being negative for attention. And they don't even mean what they say. They're just being negative performatively. Actually, we just seem that way because we're so different than everyone else, but we're balanced. We praise the Niners when it's all the time, when it's deserved. Think about other people that cover this team and ask yourself, has this person ever criticized the 49ers? Ever?
Oh,
when?
Ever criticized Kyle Shanahan?
Ever? Ask that question.
There were so many pieces that came out after they got beat by the Eagles saying it's not Kyle's fault. They immediately went to defend him, even though we got 2 quarterbacks hurt in one game. Why do you need to defend him? Wouldn't a more provocative, if I were at the Chronicle or the PD, I wouldn't have defended him. I would say, wait a minute, let's slow down. Let's not defend him. Is there anything wrong with what he did? And you'd get more hits. You'd get more people pissed, but you'd get more views.
Can you imagine? Absolutely. Can you imagine if the roles were reversed and Nick Sirianni got Jalen Hurts hurt on the first drive and then the backup too? Can you imagine what the commentary would have been in Philadelphia?
Right.
And it would have been justified.
It would have been the right commentary.
Absolutely. But out here in the Bay Area, I don't know what it is. I think it's a West Coast thing. I feel like maybe the market out here feels like the national reporters don't talk about the Niners enough. And there's this, I don't know what the mentality is, but it feels like a lot of the fans just want to hear that the Niners are great and they're perfect and that they're underrated and that they don't get enough respect. It was like, nah, man, that is such a minor league mentality. This is the Bay Area. It's one of the biggest metro areas in the country. It's one of the greatest franchises in sports history. We should talk about them like they're the Eagles or the New York Giants or the New England Patriots, not the San Antonio Spurs. You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah,
that's how I think about them. So
now look,
yeah,
I got nothing against the Niners. I've had the deepest experiences covering sports for me was covering the 49ers. I'm deeply grateful for what they've put out and for the time I could be with them. I would like them to do well. It would be fine, but I'm not for them. I just cover them, and Iggy just covers them. He's not for them, and he's not against them. But if you're not for them, people say you're a hater. I don't agree with that. In fact, I don't respect that.
Right. And the way I see it is, as long as every other member of this, market is afraid to go past a certain point, there's always going to be a market for me. And my YouTube channel is always going to grow because I feel like I'm the only one trying to do what they would do in Philly or New York or New Jersey or Washington and trying to hold this team to a major market standard.
And I think it takes courage because you're a perennial outsider from the team and the other media.
Yeah, I mean,
outsider.
I think everyone would prefer that I don't do this. And I think when you were at the Chronicle in the 80s, everyone would have preferred that you didn't do it the way from your peers to the players to the teams. I mean, you're the turd in the punch bowl. Sorry.
I wouldn't like to think of myself like that. But I'll tell you, a lot of the media did not like me. And a lot of the players did not like me, but a lot of players did. Like, for example, players who were honest, like Jimmy Ward, Vita Blue.
Yeah.
Vita Blue was intrigued by me because he felt a lot of the same things I felt, and I wrote them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what did Jimmy Ward say about me? Grant can say this stuff. He's not on the team. I can't say it. There is a certain company line you got to go with when you're on the team. And some players appreciate someone who calls the stuff out and says, hey, what is this coach talking about? What about this guy over here on the team who's talking for everybody? What about that?
Now, Iggy, I'm going to say another thing. I don't want you to comment on this. This is just Lowell. I don't want you to comment. There are certain opinion people, and I'm not going to name names in the Bay Area, who have, especially toward the Niners, softened. They used to be a little bit more like me, i.e. blunt, fair, and now they've backed off and have become a little bit more cozy or timid. Iggy knows who I'm talking about. You guys can draw your own conclusions, but it depresses me.
I have a theory.
But don't name names.
No names. But when you were in the game, before you retired, you were still in the era of online articles being free. I mean, your stuff was never behind a paywall. Now,
That's right.
everyone has decided to put their stuff behind a paywall. So if you're selling subscriptions, how provocative can you be? I bet you they check, like, this article produced this many subscriptions.
Oh, they
this
do?
article lost subscriptions. So they probably de-incentivize themselves from being honest, because everything is about selling subscriptions, which is the wrong business model to begin with. I don't sell subscriptions. I'm selling ads. It's free. A 10-year-old could watch my channel, but not a 10-year-old can't read. I'm not going to name, but you know what I'm talking about. There's 3 of them locally. They can't read them. I don't have subscriptions to these places because I'm petty, and they didn't hire me. I'm not giving you $5 a month. Hell no. So I don't know what any of these people read. They're my I have no idea. I wouldn't give them $5. No, absolutely not. No, that's petty though. That's me. Chris Telerico says, hey now, I've been saying ditch Kyle for as long as Iggy has. Now I'm saying blow up this team. Ditch the head coach and the GM after the presser. Take all your dead cap hits this year and develop Trey. Well, you got to give him a team if you want to develop him.
Yeah, maybe that's a little radical.
Much better with this mic. Just turn down your gain a tad. Okay. We'll figure this out. I'll mess around with this. Tell me what this sounds like. Is this better? We will work this out. Jesse told me what to do. I'm blaming Jesse. Mr. Amazing says premeditating on the ways that we the people can buy the team from the Yorks. Kind of like Green Bay. Got to cut the head off. It starts at the top. All right, just raise $5 billion, and I think you could probably buy the team.
These people are not selling the team.
Grant, you are Pat Mahomes of YouTube, not even close. Well, thanks. And my dad's Andy Reid. James Williams says, do I think Kyle Shanahan would have had the player slide on the one like Casey did in the Super Bowl? Remember when I pointed that out, Dad?
Yes.
You think the Niners would have been that prepared?
No.
It was brilliant, and it showed how prepared they were, well coached they were.
Yeah.
Or maybe he was just a really smart player too. Ryan says, I was in that boat, Grant. Thought you were too tough on Jimmy Garoppolo and Kyle Shanahan, but after now, there isn't a place I go to before you for Niners news. Also, the Bruin connection doesn't hurt. Appreciate all your work, Ryan.
Go Bruins.
Go Bruins. Go Bruins. I like Grant, but definitely think he's more Jackson than Pat Mahomes. Serious, though, do you ever worry about your style leading to guys like Lombardi getting to go on McAfee and looked at as more legit? No, I mean, nah, I don't. I don't think we're doing the same thing at all, even though we both have a YouTube channel.
And McAfee would never have Iggy on because Iggy's too hot for McAfee.
Exactly. He has on people he's not threatened by. He would never have me.
Right, exactly.
Are you kidding? Look at my views. It's too much. He would just give me more viewership.
Also, you'd argue with him. And
Absolutely.
You'd defeat him. He's smarter than he is. Iggy, he may be a very nice man, but he comes across to me as a blowhard.
That's the word. He is a blowhard. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, and I don't know. Do you watch that show? No.
I only watched when he went after you about Kinlaw. And
what do they talk about in that show?
I don't know. He does his muscles and stuff. But with Kinlaw, he didn't do any homework. I mean, all he did, you know what? That day, I'm not saying he may be great every other day, but that day, he was just a bullshit artist. He hadn't done any homework. Like, called you.
Right. I think, look, as someone who has a little traction on YouTube, I think I understand what he's doing. He's really famous right now. And I think he gets millions of views just saying anything. Yeah. So he's lazy. Why would he do homework or journalism when he can just stand up with no preparation and yell a bunch of stuff and do his personality and people will watch it? Like, that's so easy. He'll get paid. He's just lazy at this point. I understand, because I have to fight that myself.
Well, he's also getting sued at this point by Brett Favre. But maybe he'll win the suit. I don't know. He's lazy and now he's getting sued. Let's not discuss
That's the problem with being lazy and talking and talking shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do we have any more? I think we're done.
Okay. Well, this was a very nice show. We'll do one. Iggy, we'll do one next Tuesday. We'll find something to talk about, right? We will do one next Tuesday. Guys, I am flying to Miami tomorrow morning, so I'm done streaming for the week, but I will be posting intermittent travel vlogs from South Florida. So stay tuned. Okay. Love you, Iggy. Love you, Dad. I'll call you in a minute. Good show. Okay.